I think that's on. Okay, welcome to my film review site. I've been the owner of the Cineworld Unlimited card since the end of 2011. The very first film I ever saw with it was My Week with Marilyn, starring Michelle Williams. And I still remember that night getting the bus from the marina back to Brighton Station, almost sobbing at how sad the film had been, but comforted to know that I now had this card in my wallet that allowed me to see as many films as I liked, as many times as I liked. And it all spiraled from there. Just like the Beyond Cheesy Cineworld adverts, I suppose you could say it opened up an entirely new world of amazing possibilities. Because a few weeks after I got this card, I found myself just taking full advantage of it, relieving the boredom of where I lived at the time, where the highlight of a Friday night was nipping down to Asda for some yogurts and to browse the DVD aisle, and cloaking myself in this world of sheer escapism at the cinema. At the weekends, I would finish at the gym, get home, stank, showered, knock open the app and book 2 to 3 films and run down to the cinema and watch them. I would just devour one after the other, and it just didn't bother me that there were couples down the front and rowdy lads up the back. I was sat in this perfect little bubble and just having a great time. It suited me perfectly. A friend of mine who also didn't have a lot going on at the time, we would meet outside the cinema quite frequently and get either excitable or dubious at what we were about to watch. And we both revelled in it. The simple, sheer pleasure of making our way up the steps of a pitch black auditorium, lit only by the seat number floor markers, latte in one hand, possibly 3D specs in the other, and taking our big squishy seats. I specifically remember this being around the time the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel was released. And at that time, a whole new cinematic world was awakening, with Avengers pouncing into action and Margaret Thatcher being portrayed spectacularly by the one and only Meryl Streep. It was all the simplest of things, but something that shattered weekend or evening boredom perfectly. It was also like keeping yourself in tune, really, with what was going on in Hollywood, what new projects were coming up, which actors were making a comeback in their careers, as well as being either highly entertained or extremely disappointed with the shit or splendour that was up on the big screen. But again, that was the beauty of the Unlimited card. I would just run down to the cinema and just do it over and over again. A different element of the cinematic experience, I quickly realised how extortionate food and drink is, popcorn being about £6 for an average size bag, and one of those fruity slush things or a Coke would set you back about £4.80. Not good. So I took the DIY route and used to take packets of biscuit bars, and I even invested in a flask. That's right. I had my own little tankard that I took down to the cinema. And it was just brilliant, because instead of expensive cinema coffee, I legged it into town with freshly brewed tea from home. Generally, it was still quite hot by the time I got there, so that was quite cool. So yeah, I saved a lot of money by sipping warming, gorgeous tea instead of that fizzy, slushy crap that's filled with God knows how many chemicals and colorants for the bargain price of £5.80 or something. I mean, it's cinema food and beverages. They're just so expensive. I wouldn't spend more than £3 on a tube of lube these days. I mean, I'm not a frequent shopper, I must add, but I did notice the other day in a supermarket, a tube of lube was about £8.99. It's just completely nuts, literally. Home bargains, 79p. So as time went on, cinema became a side salad to my day job, and it wasn't until a lady I knew came up to me and said, "Hey, you should start writing for papers and magazines," that I took note and thought, yeah, I could do that. Bam. Summer 2013, I created my own little website, Ricky's Film Reviews, that you may have already visited or not actually seen at all. It was created by the help of WordPress. Decent enough, their format, although it's a bit shit because there's buttons and menus and toggly stuff all over the place. And you have to actually purchase and download fonts just so as to have some nice, colourful writing on screen. That same year, I was having so much fun devouring one after the other at the cinema, all these different films, that I actually decided to sit down, and I did contact every individual newspaper, magazine, and radio station I could possibly find in all 50 states of America, as well as the entirety of Great Britain. from tiny population 4 villages in vast Texas to central London itself. I just blitzed everybody's asses. Fast forward a few months and I'd done it. I'd had a stint on a hospital radio station, a newspaper in Wales linked my website through theirs, and a journal in New York City did the same thing. It was so exciting. And the biggest thing was my own 2-pager in a local free newspaper up in the Midlands in the UK. So I just wanted to show you just quickly. This was it. So yeah, got to give my own little page. It looks like they were taking the piss, or they could have got done for copyright issues, where it says Love Films, because there was a DVD rental service at the time called Love Film. So they either it was either copyright or they just stuck an S on it for fun. My little mug shot there in the corner. And yeah, so as you can see, this was around the time of Minions and Monsters Inc. or Monsters University. That was terrible. Just full-on reviews running down the pages. And yeah, here's another 2. So is that there? You can see that there. I held this up. I did a practice thinking there wouldn't be so much reflection, but there is. So yeah, you get the gist. So yeah, I had my own little page of these reviews. It was one of the best, if not the best hobbies I've ever had in my life. It wasn't paid. I did it all for free, but I didn't want money for it. If I'd made an actual job out of it, then fine. But it did slowly fizzle out in the end. And I'm just very glad I did it, really. Julie Roberts, Johnny Depp. So that was all before a pandemic arrived. Cinema went tits up and the world of film just completely frosted over like a billion-year-old fossil. I mean, I can't be the only one out there who thinks the quality of movies 2019 onwards is just fucking dire. Going back even further, but pre-pandemic, I think the cracks had already started to show with up on the big screen with streaming platforms such as Netflix and Disney Plus evolving into game-changing staples of people's lives. I mean, who wants to travel to a cinema, faff around with tickets, getting drinks, finding your seat, missing about 6 minutes of the most recent Marvel, 9 minutes if your jeans are too skinny? Because the drink you got seemed to bypass and flush through your entire system. When you can just stick the kettle on, cozy up on the sofa and lift the remote control. Bam, you've got it all right there in front of you. My pet hate of the current cinematic climate, though, is the fact that any movie released in cinemas will almost certainly be on streaming platforms within a week or 3. Summer 2021, I went to see Cruella up in Enfield, which isn't local. It's about 36 miles away. I watched the film, returned home that evening, sat down after dinner and stuck Disney Plus on. And there's Emma Stone scowling at me through the screen. Cruella, available to stream from next week. I mean, it was just, for fuck's sake. I mean, I didn't have to travel 36 miles. Obviously, it was a nice day out. But that wasn't the point. The point was I made an effort to hit the cinema regardless. And yet it was about to stream on a platform on telly. It was just a waste of time and money. So, lastly, I suppose I should say my reviews are going to be uploaded probably after many of you have seen the film because of how swiftly they're added to streaming platforms, or because most of you made it to the cinema before I did. Back in the days of the birth of Ricky's film reviews, I would often turn up at the cinema on the day of release, probably before the building actually opened. Sad ass. So as to be the first one in, view, out, home, whilst sort of drafting a review on the underground on the way back. Some of my reviews, it's not like that now, but some of my reviews won't be instant. Other commitments could delay uploading them to my site a week or 2 later. But by that time, thousands of you might have already streamed them, visited the cinema and seen them, or illegally downloaded them. Cheeky things. And if you haven't yet seen a film, but you do watch my review, then I'm glad I could help. I think it actually shows how time, though, has tinted the cinematic experience. As mentioned before, the very first thing I did when I created my website was I put this blurb on it: grab an honest review before paying £17 on a cinema ticket. Grab an honest review before you watch it, blah, blah, blah. There's barely anybody in the cinema these days for various reasons, including streaming platforms and people adapting to technology in general. I mean, if you've got an iPhone or a laptop, you've almost certainly got access to absolutely everything in the world. Plus, the pandemic pulled the plug. I'm not exaggerating when I say there's probably around 6 of us maximum in a 200 to 300 seater screen when I go and see a film these days. I mean, I still remember sitting in a scorching hot auditorium on a Saturday night, squished between hundreds of people. That kind of, sorry, excuse me. Sorry, my seat's just, sorry. It feels honestly like I'm reminiscing about the Victorian era or something. It's not. B, nobody is going to pay £16 plus for a film these days. The prices have just rocketed. But although I do make an effort to inform and entertain, this isn't my day job. I'm not an editor for Empire and don't work for Total Film magazine either. So whether it's a quick look on YouTube on your lunch break or you've settled down for the evening to watch YouTube film reviews, do tune in and I'll do my best to bring you raw, honest reviews of recent releases. I'm going to start with 2020. I think the first film I saw when the first lockdown lifted was Spree, starring Joe Keery. So enjoy.